Hey everyone, welcome into the Thinking Crypto podcast, your home for cryptocurrency news and interviews. I'm your host, Tony Edward. On your way in, please hit that subscribe button as well as a thumbs up button and leave a comment below. If you're listening on a podcast platform such as Spotify or Apple, please leave a 5-star rating and review. Okay, folks, I'm sure many of you are aware of the war happening with Iran and the strikes that are happening and all these things, right? There's a whole political conversation about that. And obviously, we don't want to make light of war, but rather the situation is what it is. So we have to talk about what is the impact on the markets because we're going to have to see how things pan out next week, especially when the markets open up on Monday. Now, when I say when the markets open up on Monday, I'm talking about the stock market, right? The TradFi world, but crypto. Guys, very good side. Bitcoin held up. Despite short-term volatility, it's still held up. It's trading at $67,000. So we didn't have some major collapse. And one of the things that this war situation could do for the markets, it could further put fear out there. And we've been in extreme fear. But the point is, it continues to add fuel to the fire for markets to rally because the market always does the opposite of the herd and what the mainstream or the masses are thinking. We're seeing headlines from the New York Times saying crypto is useless and pointless and all these things, right? So you have these conditions that are all there for a major relief rally. And that's what we've been waiting for. So a good sign that Bitcoin and altcoins held up for the most part, because we've seen historically that certain black swan events and things along those lines could cause markets to collapse. So there's no major panic here, guys, for Bitcoin. So that's a very good sign. And the charts are still telling the story here. You know, it's kind of like show me the charts and I'll tell you the news, right? Well, Bitcoin is still within that range, just chopping in that range. And of course, the RSI is moving away from the oversold zone, but still has room to run. The MACD on the daily is in control by the bulls. On the weekly, we are bottoming out. You can see a green candle forming here, even though it's small. The RSI on the weekly is starting to curve. It's currently in the oversold zone, so it's starting to move away from that. So that's a good sign. And here, one analyst highlighted the following chart saying Bitcoin is playing off the same 5-day RSI regression going back to November 2018 and June 2022. So times in the market when we saw extreme volatility and some bottoming. So this is a very good sign. And again, I'm not saying we're going to new all-time highs. I give that maybe a 1 to 2% chance, as far as probabilities. There is maybe a 10% probability that we dump lower, but I believe the higher probability is a relief rally, then we roll over to lower lows. Now, is that guaranteed? Of course not, guys, right? That's why we're talking probabilities. The people who are telling you this is exactly what's going to happen, they're lying to you because they don't have a crystal ball. And if they can see the future, please ask them for the winning lottery numbers next week. So this is very good. Now, one comparison that people are highlighting here, and here analyst Benjamin Cohen put together a chart, is that the Ukraine-Russia war, which was announced in February 2022, Bitcoin rallied, had a relief rally before ultimately rolling over. Now, what's different this time around is that we are extremely oversold. We're actually at the levels that we saw with FTX in the December of 2022. So it's not apples to apples, but rather, how did the market react, based on the war announcement and these things happening? And again, its setup is there for a relief rally. And we've been talking about a move to potentially 80 to 85, possibly it overshoots, goes to the 90s. Some people are saying 105, then we roll over. Now, some other supporting metrics for this thesis is that USDT dominance, which has been on the rise, obviously since the market has been down, stablecoin liquidity has been rising. That is in the overbought zone. So it looks like it's on the verge of rolling over. And of course, that liquidity makes its way into the market. So again, you have some supporting data points here. And another factor is that Bitcoin whales have been buying it. And for the first time in a long time, retail wallets have been dumping and the Bitcoin whales are accumulating. Now, it's not anything to call home about. We want to see more of a disparity between these two because they're still closely aligned here as far as the degree of separation. So we want to see more and more of it. But I think, again, guys, all the factors that we want to see there in place before a relief rally is certainly showing us a high probability. and even many different charts, even like the Bitcoin rainbow charts, is showing that we are in the dollar cost average zone. So all these things, historical metrics and much more, are just screaming some sort of local bottom here. A relief rally is due because the masses, the mainstream, are in fear, whether it be because the prices are down or macro factors like the Iran war. All these things are setting up for a reversal, right? A counter trend move. So let's be patient and let's see what the month of March brings us as far as that major move. I love the chart that Crypto currently put together where he outlined three major Bitcoin scenarios, saying prepare for multiple outcomes. So his base case is that this is a shallow bear market. So we're not going to the 50Ks or the 40Ks, right? But rather the 60Ks is the bottom. And there's obviously tons of metrics to support that, such as extreme fear, such as the RSI touching levels that we've seen in previous bear market bottoms. So I'm in agreement with that. I think it's a shallow bear with a relief rally before we go down and test some lows, but not necessarily breaking 60K. The other one is a normal bear market where we continue to go down and we go touch like 38K or 40K. And then the low is in, is what he's saying. But he's saying this is unlikely, where this is the low and we start climbing to higher highs. I don't think that's going to happen. I think even if we don't go below 60K or whatever it is, we still chop sideways for a while. So again, you got to look at multiple scenarios because we don't have a crystal ball and we'll see how the market plays out. But we want to be educated about all of these things. Now, another factor here highlighted by Matthew Hyland is that altcoin dominance monthly has broken out, flashing signals not seen since June 2020. So the altcoin market so depleted, right? Which really hurts, right? I mean, I look at my portfolio, I'm like, oh, that's brutal. But I tend not to look at my portfolio too much because it's too depressing. But anyway, this is a very good sign that it's breaking out. The MACD has flipped green, so the bulls are in control. So the trend lines that were used to analyze this shows a breakout. So all in due time. Another macro factor, which I'm sure many of you saw, is that the ISM, specifically for Chicago, saw a move upward, a breakout upward, and we're waiting for the full ISM data, which is the manufacturing data, on Monday. And if that follows that trend, again, just more data points, more factors, right, that are piling up here, setting the stage for a relief rally. So we're going to have to be patient here, guys. And, our hope is that Bitcoin goes as high as possible, even though it's not going to new all-time highs, so that that liquidity hits the altcoins and we see some of these alts rally, at which point I'm going to take some small profits. I'm not in a position where I absolutely need the money and that type of thing. So I'll take some profits of Bitcoin, some of the altcoins, and then I'm going to look to continue to accumulate and wait for the next bull market, 2027 into 2028. So this is where, guys, we absolutely have to be patient, and you got to check your emotions and have the macro view. I know many of us were disappointed with the last bull market. I certainly was, but this is how it goes. And one of the important things to keep in mind is we are seeing adoption like never before. We're at the cusp of getting crypto market structure legislation. And I think as these on-ramps and infrastructure is being set up by TradFi, and then you get the legislation, it's going to allow trillions to come into this market. So the valuations of these blockchains and their native tokens are going to skyrocket, but we got to be patient. Now, folks, quick word from our sponsor, and that is Propy. Propy is leading the charge of putting real estate on chain. I'm a Propy token holder. I have been since 2018. I'm very bullish on this project. So they're using AI and blockchain technology to disrupt the real estate process. So you can buy and sell real estate on Propy's platform for crypto. So if you want to sell your house for Bitcoin or buy a house for Bitcoin, you can do that here. So Propy's been around since 2017. They've facilitated over $5 billion in transactions. Legendary investor Tim Draper is an investor in this company, and they use Coinbase for the escrow service for the buying and selling. They put deeds on chain. They've created NFTs for properties, and they recently raised $100 million to acquire different real estate companies and technologies. So again, I am bullish on this project long term. I am a Proppy token holder and I continue to accumulate. So if you'd like to learn more about Proppy, go to proppy.com. Link will be in the description. Now, folks, we continue to see that on LinkedIn, these major banks are hiring crypto people. So it's part of the infrastructure build out. And despite the banks pushing back on stablecoin legislation, they're all in, guys. They're all building, looking to launch crypto trading, launch their own stablecoins, tokenization, custody. Yesterday we talked about Morgan Stanley filing with the OCC to custody crypto, SoFi Bank opening up Solana deposits, and Barclays Bank, which is a UK bank, they are looking to build some sort of blockchain for payments and much more. So these banks are all in. So here's an example. Goldman Sachs is hiring someone for equity research, large banks, brokers, and crypto. In addition, Jefferies is looking to have a equity research associate, crypto and digital assets. So if you're on LinkedIn, go check it out, guys. Go see it for yourself. They're building out their divisions, they're hiring the talent, and they're getting ready to integrate the blockchain technology and crypto as much as possible. So this is very, very bullish news. Okay, now this is interesting. 11 US senators request federal probe into Binance's sanctions compliance. Now, there's a lot of drama with Binance because of the Trump administration, CZ getting pardoned, and much more. So some politics involved here, but I don't know where this leads. Look, Binance already went through this, where they paid their fine and all of that. CZ went to jail and all those things. So I don't know where this leads. I don't know if this is some posturing politically, but in a letter on Friday to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Attorney General Pam Bondi, the lawmakers urged a prompt, comprehensive review of the exchange's compliance controls and its adherence to settle agreements reached in 2023. The senators pointed to allegations that approximately $1.7 billion in digital assets flowed through Binance to Iranian entities linked to terrorism, including groups connected to the Houthis and Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. So again, I don't know where this goes. I don't know if this is some political posturing. And then, obviously you throw in the war that's happening. So we shall see, but just something you guys should be aware of. Final news item, Ethereum smart accounts are finally coming within a year, says Vitalik Buterin. So the Ethereum Foundation and developers are certainly looking to make some big upgrades to ETH to continue its usability. So Ethereum account abstraction or smart accounts will be shipped with the Hellothinkingcrypto upgrade within a year, Vitalik Buterin said on Saturday. We have been talking about account abstraction ever since early 2016. He added that now we finally have EIP 8141, an omnibus that wraps up and solves every remaining problem that account abstraction was intended to address, plus more, and is slated to deploy this year. He said, finally, after a decade of research and refinement of these techniques, this all looks possible to make within a year via the Hellothinkingcrypto fork. So guys, many of you know I hold ETH in my portfolio. It is getting incredible adoption by institutions. And recently we heard about, Vitalik saying that, look, L2s are not as important. We want to continue to build out the layer one of Ethereum. And look, so I don't know how that fares for some of these L2s. I think there's too many L2s out there, but that's okay. This is the free market, and eventually there might be some consolidation and some may not work out. But there will be L2s, I think, that exist, but just not the amount that we're seeing today. But ETH, I believe, is going to be one of the winners coming out of this technology. And I think it's going to continue to do well. And I'm betting on it, and I'm staking as well. And I hold a good amount of ETH tokens. So I'm looking forward to it hitting new all-time highs in the next bull market. Anyway, folks, that's the news. Let me know what you think. Leave your thoughts and comments below. Hit the thumbs up button. And guys, be sure to subscribe to my free email newsletter. I'll be putting out a write-up on Monday. You don't want to miss it, especially after the big macro news with Iran and all these things and what the charts are doing. I held off on writing up a report yesterday just because of the news. I'm like, you know what, let the dust settle and let's see how the markets open on Monday, and then we can, go from there. So make sure you subscribe. It's 100% free. Link will be in the description. Be sure to grab a copy of my book on Amazon. It's available in paperback and digital. And be sure to check out my course at mycryptocourse.com. This is a comprehensive course that teaches you everything you need to know about crypto, Knowledge is power, so expand your knowledge. And all the links will be in the description. Thank you so much for tuning in, folks. I appreciate you all, and I'll talk to you all later.